All right, folks, let us know if you can hear us and see MJ.
Well, and hear us. Oh, you said that.
Yeah,
Did you?
I did.
Oh. Been a long few weeks.
All right, great. Well, it's time for another weekend wrap-up and Q&A with MJ, so take it away, MJ.
Well, happy Monday, or Manic Monday, or Mad Monday, or It's Just Monday. As you guys have seen, unfortunately, we did not have a test over the weekend. That's not horrible news. Certainly we would have liked to. But we were putting in, again, so much new stuff, including over the weekend, that things were just not stable. We may have a screenshot later. We'll see. It's a little after 9. And if all goes well, maybe later tonight we'll post something. If not, we certainly will have something for you tomorrow. So this weekend update is really, hey, we put in a lot of code, and we've been fixing code and adding new code ever since then. Ever since Friday and Saturday and Sunday and today. So the good news is more stuff is going in. Some interesting stuff is going in as well. That things go well, we'll be streaming about later this week. And that's it. I wish I could say there was a heck of a lot more to talk about in this weekend update, but there really isn't a heck of a lot more to talk about other than lots of stuff went in, and boy oh boy, I don't know if we shared, that Vine. We took a Vine earlier today of what a substance, a material, a block would look like with the new lighting system. And if we haven't shared it yet, make sure we can get that, hopefully we can get that posted tonight, as well as a screenshot. They're both quite different, but I think you'll see from, and if you haven't seen the Vine, just how cool the lighting system already is. And it's just going to get so much better over the next few weeks, let alone the next few months. So, really, that's it. Time for questions.
All right, hit us up with your very most delicious questions, people. This is your chance.
One thing I will say, there's going to be a two longish appearances with me on Massively's podcast with Justin and Bree. The first one will air tomorrow, and then there'll be another one later in the week. Lots of your questions were answered, folks. Lots.
Okay, Enric has a big question to start us off. So, under the old class system, I could imagine a time when an attunement-focused caster could conceivably use points in another primary stat, like Faith, for example. Since the change in class design, I see less merit in this. Is there any plan to redesign the stat system, or am I missing something?
Are you missing something? Look, the old class system, there was no old class system. There was an archetypes. Those were just archetypes. Are we designing a system that only one stat matters for a class? Absolutely not. Keep in mind that everything that we've talked about so far is just our first pass at classes, and Ben's a pretty smart guy, and designing a class system that only one stat matters is just not something that he's going to do.
Hit us up with more questions, folks. This is your chance to ask MJ stuff. Zube, of course, as always, asks, are we there yet?
Nope, I wish we were. If we were, I'd tell you, hey, we're there yet. But we're not. Again, I can't even, there's no way to adequately explain just how much new stuff has gone into the game in the last 4 weeks, and how much more, is going to go in during this week. So, are we there yet? Nope. Are we going to be there yet? It's still going to be really tight, guys. We still haven't gotten everything we were hoping was going to be in this weekend working. It's in, but as always, as I told you guys last week, every time you put in a lot of new things, that tends to expose other things that maybe should have been fixed, months ago, or should have been done better, or just, hey, we had no idea that there was something that is now broken. And that's what happens. So We are doing our best. Obviously, you see the streams, you see us all here. But it's going to be tight. It's going to be an awful lot of work, and I cannot and I will not say, oh my God, of course we're going to make it. I wish I could say that.
Lokimuff asks, in the live game, will it be possible to make a wide moat surrounding your castles and towns?
Oh, absolutely. Look, we've said from the beginning that geography has to matter, water has to matter, all that stuff has to matter. If you don't have a moat, you don't ever need a drawbridge. If water doesn't matter, you don't need a full bridge. If you lose the ability to use water as a way to block and protect your area, then we make it even easier for keeps and other things to be sieged and to be knocked down. And, that would make this a far less interesting game.
Guinness asks, how is the Vox interface coming along?
In terms of the interface itself, it's not coming along. Frankly, we've said that that's not a priority for us for the launch of Beta 1. What is a priority for Beta 1 for crafting is to have as much about the crafting system in. And that does not mean the interface. You've seen the early shots of the interface, so you know we're moving down a very good path. But actually doing the code support for that and design support as opposed to doing character creation and doing other things, that's something that we can put on the back burner. Because what's most important to you folks right now is seeing the bare bones of the system or seeing a UI that's probably going to change anyway. So we've been focusing on getting in the meat and potatoes of the system, getting in refining, getting in the ability, as Mark got to work at the end of the day Friday, actually crafting crafting a sword out of materials, in which the properties of the materials, because as you guys know, everything about the crafting system is based on what are the physical properties of the materials. Getting all that working, that's all kind of important. So you guys, when you come into beta, you'll be able to, whether through / commands or through UI, be able to see exactly what it is you're going to be doing when that UI is built, or almost exactly what you're going to be doing when that UI is built. I mean, obviously, doing it this way won't allow us to do any real-time interactive stuff, but that's okay, because the game, the crafting system, really isn't about making mini-games the focus of it. Might they have a role in some parts, depending on one's definition of mini-game? Yes. We've said that. But it's not going to be the focus. It's not going to be something we want to rely on. What we want to rely on is the core system. Does refining work? Does, shaping work? Does making work? Can you guys really create items out of any material that it makes sense to, and not via a recipe system? Because right now, there is nothing recipe-based in the current system. It is all, I've laid out all the physical properties for, what am I up to? More than 30 now, base materials. And it's how they interact that gives you the alloy. Not a recipe, the physical properties. That's the stuff we want to start testing as soon as possible, because at the end of the day, that's what matters the most.
Boulder Bolg asks, for small PvP guilds, will it be more efficient to trade for gear or to make crafter alts?
I guess that really depends on, the guilds. If guilds have enough people that want to run crafter alts, and they make them full-time alts, that might be a very effective route. But if they're just crafter alts who are playing occasionally, it won't be that effective. It just can't be. One of the things that we've talked about, so many times, is that the ability of people to run an alt in crafting is going to be more limited than in other games, mainly because leveling up that alt has to take time, just like leveling up your main character has to take time. So, you don't want to give a blanket answer by saying, oh no, it won't ever be effective, because the person who's playing the alt might say, yes, it's my alt and I'm playing it half the time. Or they might say, oh, it's my alt and I'm actually playing it more, but because he's a crafter, he sits around a lot, so he doesn't do as much, so I consider my main to be my combatant. Either which way, you're going to need to spend time on your crafting character if you want it to progress, just as if you want your combatant character, to progress, you have to play that character as well.
Foggy asks, now that you've brought back Bring Out Your Devs and Piercing the Veil, are they going to continue?
Yep.
Dr. Derp MD asks, when Beta 1 opens, will Beta 2 backers get a chance to experience Cube?
Yep. Same thing we did for our Beta 1 backers, we are going to do for the Beta 2 backers. So as soon as Beta 1 opens, we open Beta 2 for Cube, and at the same time, we also will have Beta 2 backers be able to join the fun and frolic at times on special days and on special tests.
Loki Moth asks, in a live game, how much time will it take to make a medium-sized castle when you are at the right spot with your blueprint and all the necessary components? Is it automatic, or do people need to do stuff?
Oh, you have to do stuff. I mean, it certainly won't be automatic. It can't be automatic. If building in this game is as simple as pushing a button and poof, castle, then sieging and taking and burning and pillaging really has no effect. So making a castle will take time. Now, will your character, if you're a builder, have to sit there and do every block? Of course not. That would get pretty darn tedious. So there'll be ways to speed that up. We've talked about some of these ways already. It's nothing mysterious. In Cube itself, yeah, you can build instantly. That's what blueprints are for. You can build very, very quickly. But it can't be that way in the main game, because if things like that are in the main game, the point of sieges and the point of pride in being able to protect your home and your keep sort of vanish if all you have to do is push a button and instant castle. That would be bad.
Nanalak shouts out, great interview on MOP.
Oh, you must have had early access to it. Thank you. It was fun. I love Bree and Justin when we get to do these podcasts, and it was just fun as usual.
James Goblin asks, will we have squirrels in the woods, or similar random creatures, such as a random sparrow, bugs, and such details that make the world more natural and believable?
We want to have that. We also want to have Vorpal bunnies, just because. But no, of course we're going to try to put some fauna into the game. Just like everything else, it takes time. It is not our focus. We might have a stretch goal, for additional wildlife, like we have a stretch goal for additional animations. But it is not our focus in the short term. Long term, absolutely. We want more, because it does make the world feel more alive. It makes it feel more believable, more immersive. And if you've seen, our latest screenshots and some of the new ones we're going to have either tonight or tomorrow, boy, that world is feeling, or the game is feeling more like a real world, every day that goes by.
Klotzo asks, the environments look fantastic so far, especially with the lighting. How much work has so far gone into making them compelling from a gameplay standpoint? Do you have any thoughts on height advantage, line of sight, jumping to difficult places, etc.?
Almost none. Look, in the short term, making them compelling for gameplay is not our focus. Our focus is trying new things, seeing how the great procedurally generated system that Andrew wrote actually works. Stressing it out more, trying different things with it. That's our focus.
The man with no screen name wants to know, what's the weirdest or quirkiest thing that's happened since the Drowning Doors?
Absolutely nothing. Everything has been moving along really nicely. Nothing terribly quirky in the last couple of days, unfortunately. I'd love to make something up, and if we were a reality TV show, maybe I would, but we're not. So, hey guys.
Okay. Uh, Okay, Doulos asks, since you asked, what is most important to me is not the Vox, but that a crafter class exists and combat classes are not able to craft as well. Can you confirm for Beta 1 start that crafters will exist and get building crafting and that combatants will not?
Combatants won't exist, but that would be not so
No.
much fun. I know, I'm teasing. No, and what I can confirm, and I've said this before, so this is not a new confirmation. What is important for the opening of Beta 1? Again, the opening of Beta 1 is to have the crafting, the basic elements of the crafting system in. We need to have some kind of taking. We need to have refining. We have to have making. We have to have shaping and making working. And I've also said that having a separate crafter class for the opening of Beta 1 will probably not happen. We want it to happen, but we got to get the other classes in first. Because see, with the other classes, if we don't have them in, well, you can't actually test the abilities. But with the crafter class, if you don't have a separate class in, you can still test the systems. And that's the most important thing for crafters. We have to give you guys a feel, and we have to begin testing the very complicated or fairly complicated mechanics of something like alloy making, which is a huge big deal. And that has to be in as early as possible so we can get feedback from you folks, as well as make sure that, gee, the numbers are lining up the way that they're supposed to line up from my spreadsheet. That's what's critical. And we don't want to delay putting in some crafting abilities for the opening of Beta 1 just because we couldn't get in a separate crafter class. And hang on, and because frankly, guys, even if we have a crafter class in, or don't have a crafter class in, the one thing we wouldn't do for the opening of Beta 1 is try to create the whole line of separate abilities for crafters, because that's a bit of a waste of time right now. What isn't a waste of time is getting all the math in, getting the substances in, getting all the things that you guys want information about, so you can tell us, what you think, whether you think we're moving in the right direction. That's what's really important, far more important than anything else regarding the crafting system for the opening of Beta 1.
Guinness has a fun question.
Hang on, and let me,
go
sorry,
ahead.
Max, and let me follow up. And I can absolutely confirm that certainly once we get the full crafter class in, then regular or combatants will not have the same abilities. They will not be able to do the things that crafters can do. I cannot say that enough. There's no point in having a separate crafter class if combatants can do all the same things. So they will not be able to once the crafter class goes in.
Ready?
Ready.
Okay. Guinness has a fun question. You mentioned in the MagFest interview you really loved Aliens Online. Can you briefly say why?
Oh my God. So I thought of all the games that Mythic did, and obviously we made a lot of games. That one was as close to realizing the vision I had for it than any of them. I thought that, some of the things that we did were really innovative. So for those who, want to go in a Wayback Machine, we did something that I thought was really clever. It's one of my better ideas. We were trying to figure out what to do with aliens, right? Because we wanted people to play aliens. And how are we going to change the view? How are we going to make you feel like you were an alien? And so I had the idea of putting up a red filter on the screen, so that when you were playing an alien, everything just kind of looked reddish and different. Simple? Yeah, absolutely. But it was kind of game-changing, because you immediately felt different. Then getting to play the face hugger. Oh my God, was that fun. I mean, I had so much fun playing that game, as an alien, even more than playing a colonial marine. Plus, given the budget that we had for the time, which was actually the only decent budget we ever had, before we got the money for Dark Age of Camelot, and that was 450,000. We were able to bring Aliens to an online game in an incredibly immersive way for a small team. I mean, back then we were, I think, I don't know if we were 12 or 11 at the time, but we were somewhere right around that number. And we were able to make a game based on aliens that even Fox thought was a very good game, and that got our highest reviews. The only one that really got reviews, quite frankly, until Dark Age of Camelot, and that people loved. I mean, I adored that game. I'm a huge, massive fan of the movie, and so for me, whether I was playing an alien or when I was playing a human, and it was able to hear the tracker, it sounded exactly like the movie. I just nerded all over that. I just absolutely loved it. It was great.
Speaking of nerding it up, Treveria asks, has starting up a new MMO been as much fun as you had hoped for?
Oh, boy, as much fun? I think the answer is yes. The reason why I kind of stumble on it is because I'm trying to remember just how much fun I thought it was going to be. Has it been a lot of fun? Oh, yeah. It's been great. There are times, and I've said this in other interviews, I've said it massively too, where you just bang your head against the wall going, now, why did I do this? Because there's always frustrating times. Whether it has to do with the team here or it has to do with angry backers, has to do with stuff in the industry, you just kind of shake your head and go, yeah, why? On the other hand, those are a small fraction of the days or even hours that I have. I mean, I am absolutely having a lot of fun. I love this IP. I love the studio. And if you look at how much we've done, and yeah, it's taken a little longer than we would like, but if you look at how far we've come as this tiny studio, building its own engine, building its own tech stack, almost entirely from scratch, I couldn't be happier and I couldn't be prouder of that work and that team and of my partner, obviously Andrew.
Nenelak asks, will CSE provide some example architecture or guidelines for the three realms' different building styles?
Yeah, I was asked a similar question in MOP, which is why I'm smiling. The answer is yes. We're going to have a Spirit of the Game clause. Obviously, we had that in Warhammer. We had it in Dark Age, and we're going to have it here. Are people going to be able to build all sorts of structures that really kind of don't fit at all with the kind of game we're making? Yeah, we're going to have that clause, and no, you won't be able to do that. That's what Cube is for. For those who want to, channel their inner whatever, right? Whether it's, hey, I want to make a spaceship, or hey, I want to make a lollipop village, or hey, I want to make a piece of the anatomy that a lot of people who were given building block games seem to have a great desire to make. Yeah, go ahead, knock yourself out in Cube. That's what it's for. However, for Camelot Unchained, there will be that Spirit of the Game, and not strict architectural guidelines. And you folks may have heard the phrase condo Nazis. We're not going to do that. On the other hand, do we want to make sure that when people come into the game, when they're wandering around the world, that the constructions that they're seeing actually fit the world? Yes, we want that. And I think the vast majority of our backers want that as well.
Tildor TV asks, will guilds be able to interconnect plots that are close enough to each other?
Maybe. Players will, whether we allow guilds to, whether we allow guilds to or not, is still something we need to talk about.
Hypnite asks, what Viking class, we all know you're a Viking at heart, do you think you'll play first, now that everything is starting to come together?
No comment. I always get into trouble, no matter what I say. I have said a couple of classes are my favorites and things that I really like. Honestly, I'm going to play them all. I mean, anything that we put into the game, I'm going to play. I have to. It's part of my job. Which one will be my favorite at the end of the day? I honestly don't know. There are so many there that I just can't wait to play. Because frankly, since I laid out the concept for each one, I kind of have a soft spot for almost all of them. And I think I talked about in the last update or maybe the update before, that the water worker, the wave weaver, needs some additional loving. Other than that guy, I have a real soft spot for almost all the classes, and an incredibly even softer spot for things like the dual hunt. I'm really looking forward to playing that.
Lokimoff asks, in a live game, how much time will you need to wait for the map to merge when you tag a new piece for your realm?
Oh yeah, that's not going to be instant. That's going to that like sieging castles and burning stuff down. That's not going to happen in real time. Now, let me qualify by real time meaning you could see everything coming together very quickly. That would also destroy the point of having the islands moving if it could just go up instant. But will you be able to see them move at all? We certainly hope so. We don't want to have to do that during, whether it's a shutdown or a reboot period or anything like that. We've been very clear that just like Dark Age and Warhammer, we do want to see if the servers can be up all the time, other than for progression rewards. But we'll have to see. That's an interesting piece of tech that still has to be created. Certainly it's not something we focused on yet.
Zadrid asks, can we expect to see a slightly less placeholder building damage indication in for Beta 1?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been working on that. That's one of the things that I know the art team and Rob have been figuring out how to do. So I certainly do hope it'll be in for the opening of Beta 1, and if it isn't, it'll be soon thereafter.
James Goblin asks, will we have terrain architecture similar to, say, Vanilla Wild's Thousand Needles, with those high cliffs and hanging bridges and 3D paths?
That's part of the plan. We're certainly very cognizant of how we don't want to make any of the maps. Well, I shouldn't say any of the maps because the islands can be small. But any of the large maps to feel like it's just one giant golf course or a golf course with a few bumps. We want to have some interesting terrain. We want to do things with, whether it's with the models or the system that Andrew's built, that really do push the envelope, for this type of game. So, yeah, we want to make it not only look a lot better, which we're, have been accomplishing quite nicely, but also a lot more interesting beyond just the technical achievements.
Darren's has a really broad question, but it is interesting. What are your plans for sustainability on the long term for Camelot Unchained?
Yeah, that is a big question. So in terms of sustainability, we want to do a number of things. First, improve the game, and that's really important. Anyone who's played an MMO knows that you don't stop working on the game when it launches. And I've cited many, many times throughout the years how great of a job CCP did with EVE Online. That was a game that, launched to very mediocre and in some cases, depending on how you were looking at things, disappointing numbers. But that company kept going. They kept improving the game, kept working on the game, and it took off. And I think that's a very important lesson for game companies. And as some MMO people, as you MMO players know, other companies didn't believe in that. They were much quicker to pull the plug or pull support from MMOs than they should have been. So yeah, it all starts with a constant stream of improvement to the game. And that doesn't mean just new content. New content is important, but keeping the balance right, continuing to work on bugs, just making the overall experience for players better is the best thing we can do to improve the sustainability of the game. Because if you don't do that, additional advertising or free trials or anything you could do to try to bring in new players, unless you do the basic work, it doesn't matter what's above it. It's still going to collapse.
Hip Knight has a complicated question, so bear with me. What is the one tool from a design and development standpoint do you wish existed for immediate ingestion, as other studios license the Unreal or Frostbite engine, that you think would have a positive impact on rapid development? For instance, a tool to make importing Ben stats into the system.
Actually, off the top of my head, nothing that I want that we couldn't buy if we thought it was important enough. I think one of the more important tools we'll have, and we're building it now, is our metric system. As you folks know, we didn't have a metric system for Dark Age of Camelot, certainly not at launch and not for a while afterwards. We used log files, and that was really old school, and it worked well sometimes, but other times, yeah, it just didn't work at all, or it was very painful and slow. So I think one of the most important tools that we can have for this game, whether it's now or for launch, is a really good metric system. And Andrew couldn't be more in support of that, which is great. And we've already started, and we're going to do more. So, I don't think, I can't think of anything right now that would be more important for us in terms of buying a tool or tech than that.
In answer to the sustainability question, Durans says, great answer, Mark, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Great question. Not asked that all that often.
Liam TV asks, will weather affect gameplay and change worlds? What are your plans on a weather system?
Yes, we wanted to. How much we'll be able to do with it for launch, unclear. Certainly, we've said that we want weather to play a role in this game. We haven't made it a stretch goal. We haven't made it, a major feature, because we know that that's something that will take time. I think at a minimum, we certainly want to have wind to play a role. We want to have rain to play a role. We would like snow and temperature to play a role as well. And certainly night will play a role, in this game. Even though night isn't weather, it's an environmental effect. It's darkness.
Hugs Me Not asks, is it possible to have the components on your hotbars instead of skills so you can produce skills on the fly? And if that's possible, would it be self-defeating?
I'm not sure how it would be self-defeating. Could you have a UI element, or could you put the components on the UI and then have an element that could allow you to quickly build skills out of that? Sure. It's not, I don't think, in any way self-defeating. I don't think it's any way hand-holding. The building of the skills, since we don't expect people to be building a lot of their skills in real time, or I should say in the middle of combat. So having that kind of system, I don't think in any way would be, seen as hand-holding or, cheating or exploitative. So if there's a better way for people to build their skills, fabulous. Don't care. We'll have our way. And if there's a better way, groovy. Because we're not looking at, our skill building, our ability building system as a way of gating, and slowing down people's progress.
Jaron Kellick asks, will the ability to repair a damaged block be available in early Beta 1?
Probably. That's actually going to be a very cheap and easy thing for us to test. So, not a big deal. So, yeah, I expect it during Beta 1. And probably early Beta 1, JK.
Drooged asks, could you shout out an example crafting / command?
Yeah, sure. Could be something like, see or craft, then make, then elements, and that would turn the substances into an alloy. And you have to obviously list the substances. You'd probably have to list the quantity of the substances, obviously, as well. It really depends on how far we get in the next few days, next week, for how detailed that is. I know the systems are in to support it, and my system, at least on the spreadsheet side, deals with quantity, obviously, and quality as well, that you can mix together.
Zipakna asks, will there be any exploration objectives throughout the world related to lore, etc.?
Yes, but not for Beta 1, certainly. At the end of the development cycle, we certainly will have final maps, or I shouldn't say final maps, bigger, polished, more detailed maps, because in these kind of games, this stuff is ever changing. And yes, we're going to be scattering things around that people, can find. And certainly the depths are going to hold some secrets. So yes, there will be exploration things for people to get and acquire. So it's really, once again, a question of how much time we have to get the stuff in and how important it is to have that stuff in for launch.
Thanks, folks, for helping to answer some of the questions from newer people. Eistern asks, do you have a company lined up for third-party art asset for when you get to that point?
If by lined up you mean committed to, no, we haven't. That's one of the things that Tyler has been doing, and we're going to do more of, is, lining up those folks. Once again, no point in doing it yet, as we have anyone who's been in, like our IT guys who've been in the current state of the build, and you see materials that look really odd. This is why we didn't farm any of this stuff out yet or spend a lot of time doing it ourselves. We knew this was going to change, and boy is it changing. If we had spent your money, if we had done the things that some other studios have done in terms of spending before they really should spend, then you'd be looking at us, or we'd be going to you with our hands out going, hey, we need more money to redo because we spent all this money on doing this stuff and now we have to redo this stuff. So, yeah, we didn't, we won't, and once this new system goes in and we're really sure how it's going to work, at that point we're going to ramp up the speed at which we're looking for companies, or potentially as well some outsourcing individuals to get done what we need to get done.
James Goblin wants to confirm, is catapulting dwarves to or over the walls still in the plans?
Oh, yeah. Come on. You know I want that. You know that, it's been one of my goals for a while to get that into this and another game that came before it. The idea of getting people on catapults, whether it is for transportation in that weird way, or to be useful and potentially devastating in combat, is also something I would like. We should be having fun with this. While this is a serious game in the sense of it's post-apocalyptic, we also want to have some fun with it. And so the idea of putting people on catapults or other magical devices to launch them into the air, absolutely. We want to do that. Can't wait.
Sethman RX asks, how far along into the beta stage processes do you expect it will be when we start voting on races to be in the launch?
I actually hadn't thought about that, Seth. I would assume no sooner than Beta 2. We really want to get a lot more done in terms of races. There are other races that I want to see in the game that we just haven't had a chance to get to yet. So, we'll see. Certainly not Beta 1. Not a chance.
Gravord requests, can you buy the Warhammer IP and create War 2.0 with Camelot game mechanics?
Yeah, I'd love to. Unfortunately, Games Workshop isn't selling, and even if they were selling, we couldn't afford them. I love Warhammer. I really did, and still do. I thought the Games Workshop guys were great. We didn't always agree, but I loved working with them. I've worked with a lot of licenses over the decades. I really have, and they were without a doubt easily one of my two favorite groups of people to work with. They were a bunch and are a bunch of lovely men and women. They were very extremely kind to us when my wife and Michael and I visited Nottingham. So yeah, in a perfect world, I'd get the Scooby-Doo do-over, on Warhammer, but not a perfect world, and it's a shame. Like I said, I love the IP, and would have loved another crack at it.
Hip Knight asks, do you think that the streaming schedule, which we as backers obviously can't get enough of, has a positive or negative impact on team productivity? And how about morale? I've never seen a studio be as open to their backer base as you guys have, so we're in uncharted territory.
Oh, we're in so uncharted territory. And feel free to spread that around the internets, guys. We're really proud of what we do here. We don't go around hyping things up. We don't go around with high-end-ish videos. We just kind of are, and do things. And we do things for you, our backers, but we do enjoy them too. I think it does have a positive effect on morale here. Certainly, Sandra's comic, I hope you all saw her comic last week. It was great. That doesn't indicate how most of us feel. Are there some people that would rather, do some horrible things rather than stream? Absolutely. Which is why we don't force them. It's why we don't have the mics open all the time. We don't want people to feel incredibly self-conscious. On the other hand, for those who like to talk, as well as other people, it's a really good thing. And what it is, and this I think is the most important thing to come out of streaming, whether it was for Alpha or now, there is not a single backer of our game who can say with a straight face that we are not open, that we are not communicative, that we haven't tried to, let you folks know everything that we have going on, almost everything. We do like our surprises and teases, but we believe in transparency. And that's easy for a game studio to say, but nobody. And this is one of the few times I will get on the hype wagon. There isn't a single studio out there that I am aware of that does what we do with you folks, that does just turn the cameras on and let you see what's going on a regular basis, that does these Q&As unscripted. We don't have, and this is no offense, truly no offense meant to any other studio. This isn't scripted. This isn't Max, reviewing questions with me so I can cherry pick the ones that I want. We don't do that kind of stuff. This is live, unscripted, occasionally unfiltered. And, this is what we think you want to see. Because at the end of the day, I'm a gamer. And this is what I would want to see if I was putting in money into a game or into a studio. Everyone should be this open with you folks. It's your money. It doesn't mean that, you have the right to control what the studio does. It doesn't mean you have the right to dictate what the studio does. That's what you're paying us for. You're paying us to make a great game. And this is the way any studio who's taken back of money, I believe, should act. And we're not going to change. And I said this, it's funny, because you go back to the Kickstarter, and there I was saying, hey, and don't worry, folks, when this game, when the Kickstarter funds, and when we go into development, that we're going to be just as communicative, if not more, than we were during the Kickstarter. Okay? We did that. We lived up to, my word. And there was some doubt, and I get that, from people, and there still is some doubt. But there shouldn't be, because we have kept that promise, and we will continue to keep that promise, not just when we, get into beta, but during beta, and not just when we're in beta, but when we're live as well. That's what you folks deserve. You have backed us, and this is how we want to reward you.
There's a lot of hilarious follow-up to the catapult dwarf throwing.
Of course there is. I'd be shocked if there wasn't.
Narcissus says, nobody tosses a dwarf.
Oh, we're not tossing a dwarf. You're strapping yourself into a catapult and you're being launched. Dwarf tossing, obviously, insulting. We wouldn't do that to the Verga. On the other hand, strapping them into a device, launching them into the air so they can go wildly flail around with their weapons and then land in the midst of some, really scared other realmers who just look at this flying Verga and, fear its might. Perfect.
Durns asks, on a serious note, do you have a number in mind as far as classes and races that you feel would allow you to have a polished product at release?
Certainly the number that we've laid out. Would we like to have more races and classes? Absolutely. Look, I'm, again, gamer, geek, so lots of classes, lots of races. I would like more, and I'm certainly, on the other hand, not going to endanger the quality of our launch by just throwing in more races and classes. I think the number we have laid out would allow us to have a great game and a polished game, and especially when it came to, the races and the classes. But time will tell, because in a perfect world, I would love to have a few more, especially races. Classes I'm a big fan of, obviously, but with races, if we can, add more just to make the world feel even more varied, more diverse, more interesting, and the realms more unique, because throwing out just different human variants doesn't really do it, and nor do I mean, the more, Strim-like creatures on the other end, but there's a nice happy medium between them that I think can, make the world just, again, feel more, or the realms, more unique, and hopefully build more realm pride, because that's where it starts. Realm pride starts from the moment not only you pick, obviously, your realm, but you pick your race and your class. And if we can't do a great job there, then the rest of the stuff won't matter as much.
In response to the stream schedule question answer, Hip Knight said, "Here, here, fantastic answer. Thanks for that."
You're welcome.
Nanulak asks, are there any plans to use loose fill, like gravel, as a cheap building material in Cube?
I certainly haven't discussed that idea with anyone yet. So I have to do something I hate to do in these things, is punt. I honestly don't know. Sorry, Nanulak.
Lokimoff asks, will you continue to stream The Office, character modeling and art, etc., when the game is live?
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, why not, right? I would see, I can't imagine any reason why we wouldn't want to do that. You guys are our backers. And you're our backers today, and you'll be our backers tomorrow. And hopefully you'll be our backers when we launch as well. And you'll be at that point, even though you'll transition to players, you'll still be backers. And so I want to keep doing this. Look, it's, again, the same thing I said at every stage of this, that when we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it. And just as it was important for us to keep communicating with you post, Kickstarter, I think it's just as important, in some ways even more important, to keep communicating after launch. We can't lose the feel of the player base. We can't, suddenly try to form a wall around the studio. Walls are great in Cube. Walls are even more useful in the game. Walls between us and our players, or walls between us and our backers, post-launch, yeah, not so much. Not a good thing.
Topaz83 asks, what are you doing to attract more female players? As a female, I feel most games cater to males.
Wow, so that's one of those great questions that almost now how I answer it, could come out really good or come out kind of sexist. So, let me think about the answer there. So, first of all, to attract more females, you really can't make the argument, or should make the argument, that, oh, we're putting in more crafting because that's good for girls. No. So no. On the other hand, one of the things that if you look back to Dark Age of Camelot, that I was very sensitive to. And that came from me. I am happy to take the credit for this one. Was our belief and my absolutely firmly held conviction that our races should not be run, especially the women, whether it's a female race, in our case like the Valkyries, a female-centric race, or simply females in the other races, should not be running around in chainmail bikinis. They shouldn't be running around in thongs. They shouldn't be running around with oversized breasts and boob sliders. So you didn't see that in Dark Age, obviously, and you're not going to see it in this game. It is my opinion, certainly, that that makes the game more female, friendly. The other things we've done, if you look at the races and you look at the classes, it's easy to say, well, we're drawing pictures of women in them. Yeah. Other developers do that. But look at the backstories. Look at the races that we've tried to create, where it's the women who are the focus, and not the focus because they're just victims. Because most of the races in our world, if you look at the Becoming stories, are victims. But women in this are just as much victims as men to the Veilstorm. But look at how they rise up. Look at how they deal with it. Look at how they turn that to their own advantage to become the races they've become. We've created, at least in my opinion, and I know anytime you say things like that, you shouldn't say my opinion, but I want to be very clear. This is my opinion, that we have created some of the most, female-centric races and classes in MMOs without relying on, again, they're female-centric because they run around, in chainmail bikinis and boob sliders. We've avoided that. You look at the armor in our game. You look at how it is realistic and, once again, isn't full of boob plates. Because we all know, anyone who's studied armor knows that if you actually made armor that extended a lot from the chest area, like a lot of female armor does in games, that would just be the worst thing you could possibly do to a woman wearing armor. So I think in those ways we've tried to make it more attractive to women. We also, again, by trying to cut down on that sort of stuff, try to set a tone that you should not be coming into this game and expecting, as a male character or somebody who plays a male character, that you're going to see a lot of sexist stuff. Again, developers are free to do whatever they want, but not for this game. We are certainly not going down that path. So, I think that's good, and we've also, if you look at both Mythic in its early days and this studio, we have more than our fair share of women who work in the studio, and they don't do what I tell them, especially the artists. I get their feedback. I want them, not only to be involved in the decision making, but to give. I can't even tell you how many times I've said to Michelle and Sandra, or Dion, when she joins us, I will be saying to her, I want your take on it. How does this make you feel? Do what you think is best. Let me know what you think, because obviously I'm not a woman. Never been one. And so my opinion as head of the studio is certainly important, but I defer to their opinion. I want to hear what they say and what they think. Because, if they're uncomfortable with something, we shouldn't be doing it. That's simple.
Not a question, but the man with no screen name says, Mark Jacobs, thank you for opening up the studio like you have to backers and letting us into your world. That backers can see what you guys do as you're doing it is a really cool experience. Please keep doing what you guys are doing.
Thank you, and we will. Again, you can take this to the bank, just as I said during the Kickstarter. You can take the whole communicative thing to the bank. This isn't going to change. We're not going to shut down the cameras, forever once we go into beta. We're not going to shut down, Q&As or other things. Frankly, and I think the Q&As will probably increase once we get into beta, because we need more feedback from you, and not just feedback from people on the forums, and not just feedback from people who might fill out surveys, but feedback from those of you who don't want to do either, who might like to come into Twitch and give us feedback. Kind of important.
Hypnite asks, staring into the crystal ball, what's next for CSE? The list of pioneered tech and concepts is as long as my arm. What could be next from the industry's dynamic duo?
Well, first, the dynamic duo is a lot more than that. We are a team. And, look, Andrew Meggs is an incredibly talented programmer, and he's a great partner, and he's my friend. I think I have, obviously, some talent as well. But it's not just us. It is the entire team. Everyone here works really hard. The stuff that you've seen, whether it is the physics system, whether it is, the new lighting, whether it is the improved networking, it's coming from all of us. And yeah, it would be really easy for Andrew and I to sit here and go, yes, we're awesome, we're amazingly awesome, hey, this is an Andrew Meggs and Mark Jacobs production. But that would be BS. And it's BS in almost every studio where you see a few people taking bows for the rest of the team. Everyone here is important. And I don't say that in that that BS way, oh yeah, everyone's important, but it's really only us. It isn't. Everyone here works really hard, and so many of the great things you've seen have been contributed by other people. You've seen the patcher without the work of JB and the mod squad. That really cool alpha patcher, which is better than most patchers I've seen in MMOs, that wouldn't have happened. The stuff you see with building blocks, that wouldn't have happened without Rob. So many things, and I could go down every person in the company and say that about, whether it's our artists, whether it's our animator Scott, Max here, who's makes my writing so much better, especially grammatically.
I do my best.
Yeah, you do pretty good. It's all part of being a team. What could be next? Certainly we're going to keep pushing tech. I have always believed, and my record speaks for that, certainly at Old Mythic, that tech is important. Hiring more programmers is important. I have never been so focused on the artistic end that I lose sight of the technical end. And that is a trap that a lot of teams fall, into. We are always going to be focused on tech here. Do we want to make great games as well? Absolutely. But I want, if you think I want more programmers now, just wait. By the time we launch, I want even more programmers because I want to keep pushing the tech envelope. I want to try different things. I want us to keep either certainly abreast with everything, but keep ahead of the game whenever possible. And that's one thing that is not going to change ever, as long as I am running the studio. That didn't happen as much with Warhammer, and that was one of the reasons we had the issues. That isn't going to happen. Not now. We need to have, even more programmers. We need to keep improving our tech. We need to continue, to try difficult things. Because if you aren't trying difficult things, especially once you've, had success, you're kind of wasting your time. And I have no intention of doing that. Wasting my time.
Seosis in Exile asks, in the Becoming story of the Picts, the TDD are said to live east of the Picts. Will this be the case in the game too, or should I not read too much into it?
Don't read too much into the stories, especially the Pict story, which hasn't, one, I haven't finished, and two, was a fairly quick story, kind of popped out of my head. A lot of the stuff from the lore is written, you don't want to say for fun, because it isn't, but isn't written in a way that, oh my God, this is going to dictate the game. That's not the point of lore stories. It was the same thing I've said to Games Workshop during, the early days of Warhammer, is that we want to be able to separate some of the things we need to make a great game from the core lore of, Games Workshop and of Warhammer, because that's the focus. It's going to be the same. I'd be pretty much a hypocrite if I didn't do the same thing here. We're trying to write great stories. That's the point of writing the stories, to write great stories. It's not to handicap us or handcuff us or put us in a position like, oh my God, Mark said or Max said in the story that this is true. That means it has to be true. Need to separate that out. different buckets. Just as I said with Warhammer, we want the bucket for the stories. We want the bucket potentially with a board game, and we also want the bucket for the main game, and those need to be separate buckets.
All right, looking for a final, really great question, folks, to close this out.
We can do a couple more. I ran long on some of my answers, so we can do a few more.
All right. How about Masteroshi asks, with the islands being moving parts, how will you avoid people getting crushed between them?
Oh, they won't be moving that fast. Don't worry. Getting crushed between an island, though, having said, well, two islands coming together won't be easy. Having said that, given my experience with Dark Age, where we didn't realize, and this goes back obviously a long time, where we didn't realize when we built the world that there would be people who would literally, and you guys who played Dark Age, especially in the early days, might remember this, who literally would walk around the edges of every point in the world trying to find a seam where they could sneak to another realm. And oh my God, did some people do that. And we never expected that. That absolutely caught us by surprise. We really didn't think that people would be quite that willing to spend that amount of time to find that hole. And yep, they did.
You're going to love this one. Grumman asks, is there anything you wish you could put into the game, but you feel it is beyond the available funding, team size, etc.?
Oh, so many things. So many things I would love to put into this game that I know we can't. Certainly a lot of it revolves around tech. I certainly would like to do some other things with weather, as we've talked about, with the engine itself, to keep pushing the envelope and making it better and better looking, doing everything we could to get as close to a CryEngine game, but still maintain frame rate. And we said that isn't our focus, which it can't be, because we know we don't have the budget to do that. But I'd love to do that, certainly more. And based on what you folks have seen and what you're going to see, we're a heck of a lot closer than I think some of you folks thought we would be. In terms of content, yeah, I'd love to put a lot more content into the game. I would love not just having the depths, but having other areas like that available. But that's pure content. That is not very much in terms of tech, and but it is a lot in terms of design and a lot in terms of world creation, and so we won't be able to do that. Oh boy, what else? So much. That's a good start.
Do you want to go to a kind of a final kind of question, or do
Sure.
you want to take some more?
I'll take a couple more.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
All right. I'm going to save yours, the man with no screen name. Let's see. Ibsen, you can ask me questions in my question and answer streams. Sacrix asks, in the last Q&A, you said there would be less air interactions for Beta 1 because there are no mages. So what about healer interactions, like two stones hitting each other in midair, or lightning on Mjolnir?
Sure. I mean, the air system is there for whatever is in the game, right? That's how it works. So depending on what's in the game, you'll see the interactions.
James Goblin wants to know, is there any info on new hires, programmers, artists, interns, or even just outsourcing?
We're certainly continuing to do so. I sent another programmer's name and resume up to Anna today, so we'll see how that goes. So that's for a junior position. We're doing everything we can. We really are. It's just hard. We're in Virginia and want people who want to move here. But yeah, we are so doing everything we can.
Helzek asks, what is the priority order for releasing Scouts, Spirit Walkers, and Shapeshifters post-launch? Are any of the post-launch classes already unveiled going to release simultaneously?
We haven't laid out the schedule yet. Okay, last question, and then I'm going to call it a night.
All right. So the man with no screen name asks, What was it that drew you to making games initially? What was it that you saw appealing? And what do you still find exciting and awesome about what you do?
Oh, well, this would be a great time to lie. Oh my God, would this be a great time to lie? Because the story is interesting, but not as interesting as it might be. So what drew me to making games at first, and I'll give the short version, because the long version is a long version, was back in high school. And I'll skip the preamble because of the time. But I was already interested in computers. And this was before computer games were really known. I mean, yeah, I'm kind of that old. And when we finally got a computer terminal in my high school, you know, we needed computer time because it was like, wow, there's this world and it's all time sharing, and you know they have stuff like games on it. And so I started actually by hacking, and because that was the only way we could get time. So my compadres and I, and in all honesty, they were the guys who were doing the hardest work were actually far smarter than me when it came to computers. I kind of came to that late or later. And so we'd managed to hack a lot of free time on a lot of systems, including one that had some games on it. And that system was Dartmouth, because back in the day, Dartmouth computing system, oh my God, that was like one of the gold standards. And so we got a hacked account or two or three on that system. And while I was exploring it one day, I found something called Star Trek. And it was actually a Star Trek game. And I was a major Star Trek nerd. Absolutely love Star Trek, still love Star Trek. Would love to do a Star Trek game. And when I played it, I thought, oh my God, this is so much fun. Oh, but it could be better. How could we make it better? And there was source code. You know, back then it was wide open, and so I just grabbed the source code and started improving it. Had no idea how to program, didn't have a book on it, looked at the code, and said, oh, okay, so that must mean that, and that works, and all right, that statement means that you can create this thing, I don't know what it's called, I didn't even know what a variable was, but I looked at the code and went, okay, this is how it works, and just started improving it. I was like, okay, I get this. So when they say, and it was basic, so it was like, let A equal something. I'm like, oh, okay, so if I want to build stuff, I use that language. And that's literally how, you know, I taught myself how to program, basic in a Star Trek game. And I had a little experience before with these things called Fortran Mon-robots, but they weren't programmed in the same way, even though that's what they were called. And it was great. It was fun. And I put in self-destruct in this. That was my first contribution to gaming, was putting self-destruct from the TV show into the game, so that you could, if you were about to die, put the Enterprise, set the Enterprise to blow up and take out the enemies that were in your sector, because it was all broken down, if I remember right, by sectors, or it might have been quadrants. It was either sectors or no, it was sectors. So, long time ago. So that's how I first got started making games. That's it.
Okay.
All right, guys. So yeah, it's a little bit after 10 here, and going to call it a night for the interview. For the Q&A. Sorry, 2 hours of interviews. And as always, we thank you for your support. We're going to be doing a lot more streaming, of course, this week. And Max and I will be talking about something tomorrow that he'll then talk about with you guys. That's going to be interesting. It'll be a fun contest. Well, not really a contest, more like a challenge. And we hope you guys will get a kick out of it. So, have a good night, or in some cases, morning and day. And we'll see you on the next Q&A. And thanks again.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for watching.